The Aeneid is in a way like filled with tears, which is one of the very surprising things. Aeneas is constantly weeping, and not just in the presence of his like lost personal loves, but when he arrives in Carthage, he weeps when he first sees this beautiful frieze around a temple. Aeneid, Aeneas arrives like in a cloud, so he can't be seen, and then he starts weeping while he looks at this frieze, and it's like that weird sort of double refraction, like in a cloud, tears covering his eyes, like trying to read a work of art. It is the sort of thing that, for me, gives the lie to any like classical rationalist readings of the poem. Like, this is just a very, very confused and confusing poem, and one's not even certain about its own status as a redeeming work of art. Because, if it were, it would somehow not present its hero in a cloud, weeping, confusedly looking at scenes from his recent past. But my favorite part of the whole poem, and what I'll read now, I'm going to read from the Fitzgerald translation of the Aeneid. The Fitzgerald translation came out. I know it doesn't really matter, but I just think it's totally awesome, and I think that lots of people tend to disagree. So here it is. 1981. There's Fagel's translation that a number of people had. That seemed good and cool. And there's a new translation coming out in a couple of weeks by Shadi Barch. I think will be certainly the first American woman that I know of to translate the Aeneid. But here's my favorite passage. This can be found on page 223 of the translation. This is book 7, somewhere around line 750. And what's happening at this moment in the poem is the poet is basically calling upon a roster of the Latins, that is to say, those who will do battle against Aeneas. And this maneuver has resonances or has antecedents in the Homeric poems, when like Homer enters into long lists and like tells you who does battle and so on and so forth. People like to skip those parts of the Homeric poems though, and especially the book 2. But this is not a part, at least to skip. At least I think it's not a part to skip. So I'm going to read some lines about this man named Umbro. He's in a way like otherwise not at all important in the poem. But after having named a number of people, the poet says, just as conspicuous, the priestly Umbro, sent from Maruvium by King Archippus, came with his helm in olive neatly bound, a man of power, who had a gift of soothing vipers and vile-breathing water snakes by a sung rune or stroking into sleep. He calmed their rabidness and by his skill relieved men bitten by them. Yet his lore would not enable him to heal the blow he took from a Dardan spear. No sleepy charms or mild herbs gathered in the Martian hills availed against his wounds. Umbro, the wood of Aganita, mourned you, and Fucinius's mirrors mourned you, the clear, quiet lakes. That's, for me, amazing. I love those lines so much, and I think I might love the last line, maybe even the last words. The clear, quiet lakes the most. I have a beautiful sound. First of all, I have a beautiful sound in English. Clear, quiet lakes. I just love the juxtaposition of the kind of hard K sound of clear and in lake, and the I don't know, gentle liquidy L sounds in there, and then the word that's in between clear and lake is quiet, which is sort of like a word that's sort of in between K and L, in that the sound quiet, I think, is somehow both harsh and liquidy. The clear, quiet lakes. And the clear, quiet lakes, they're mourning a man who is to die. He hasn't yet died in the poem. We're just sort of hearing about him. And again, otherwise insignificant person, this guy Umbro. So I just find that those lines always just bring me to a halt. And so here in the middle of the poem, the poet is sort of stopping to allow the landscape to mourn one of Aeneas's victims, you might say. And I'll just say that it always just brings me up totally, totally short. And I love reading it. I love reading this passage so much. So at the very end of book 2, Aeneas is in the midst of escaping from Troy, which is in flames and being overrun by Greeks. He and some companions, including his wife, are trying to make their exit from the city. She, maybe by virtue of some negligence of Aeneas's, gets separated and is lost. And then we read the following. In my grief, time after time, I groaned and called Creusa, frantic in endless quest from door to door. Then to my vision, her sad wraith appeared, Creusa's ghost, larger than life, before me. Chilled to the marrow, I could feel the hair on my head rise, the voice clot in my throat. But she spoke out to ease me of my fear. What's to be gained by giving way to grief so madly, my sweet husband? Nothing here has come to pass except as heaven willed. You may not take Creusa with you now. It was not so ordained, nor does the Lord of high Olympus give you leave. For you long exile waits and long sea miles to plow. You shall make landfall on Hesperia, where Lydian Tiber flows, with gentle pace between rich farmlands, and the years will bear glad peace, a kingdom and a queen for you. Dismiss these tears for your beloved Creusa. I shall not see the proud homelands of the Myrmidons, or of Dolopians, or go to serve Greek ladies, Dardan lady that I am, and daughter-in-law of Venus the divine. No, the great mother of the gods detains me here on these shores. Farewell now, cherish still your son and mine. With this she left me weeping, wishing that I could say so many things, and faded on the tenuous air. 3 times I tried to put my arms around her neck. 3 times enfolded nothing, as the wraith slipped through my fingers, bodiless as wind, or like a flitting dream. Yeah, I feel the hair on the back of my neck, stand up. And, maybe it's obvious. It's in a way, like, to me, obvious now in looking at the poem that it's like anything but a museum piece. And I'm blown away, like, kind of surprised, like, why for so long in my life was it such a museum piece?